I'm really happy to have Tom Jones here today as I had a last-minute cancellation due to some medical issues, and so thankful that he was willing to step in. He was born and raised locally. He attends Community Bible Church in Marietta with his family. He and his wife, Rochelle, who's here with us also today, have been married for 25 years and have 4 children. Little known fact about Tom is he's an amateur herpetologist and has many pet reptiles. His experience with reptiles and snakes is probably what prepared him best to work in Harrisburg. Tom.
Thanks. All right. Well, that is a very true statement. It's great to be with you guys. Jillian, Carter, thank you. Some of the things you guys said are 100% true, and it's a lot of wisdom coming out of very young people that much older adults should put into practice. One of the things that you mentioned with your team, and we have 2 daughters in high school. They're our twin. Well, this is my wife, Rochelle, and we have 4 children, a 22-year-old son, a 19-year-old daughter, and then twin 16-year-olds. So I'm teaching 2 girls to drive right now at the same time. Yeah, so that's fun. Anyway, but I know, for instance, our daughters play tennis, and like win or lose, bad game, good game. It's interesting to see that, like, our one daughter has your attitude of okay, did I do my best? Did I give my all? And then win or lose, how could I have done better? And then that team mentality as well. That's an outlook on life that's going to reward you into the future. So stick with that attitude. Don't let defeats define you, because they will come. Low days will come. Low weeks will come. Low years will come. All right. Look at all the nodding heads. Okay. So just count on it. And I know you said, I hope this is the worst it gets. No, it gets worse. But don't let it define you. Don't become a victim. Everybody defines themselves by their victimhood. That's something that plagues America, is everybody defines themselves by which victim they are. I watch it on the House floor. People will get up to the microphone and they'll literally list their victimhoods, right? And then they'll say, and because of that, vote for this. No. So I'm glad that you didn't consider yourself a victim of a poor season or seasons, right? But you looked at you looked at the positive, which is really awesome. And Jillian, you go by Jillian or Jill? Jillian, just thank you for giving all the credit to Jesus Christ, because he is our creator. And in this nation, we have freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. A lot of people would like to try to shove it down our throats that we have freedom from religion. We got to get religion and God and our creator and our faith out of the public square. That couldn't be anything further from the truth. And that's a lie that's told long enough, loud enough, and often enough that people start to believe it. Oh, separation of church and state. Show me that in the Constitution. It ain't there, right? We all need to be engaged with our different faith backgrounds, right, in the public square and bring our moral convictions to all aspects of life. And just, it's so cool to see what God's doing in your life and how he's guiding you and leading you. And I'm sure that's very rewarding for your parents as well. So just excellent, really. Thank you both for what you shared. I can tell you that as both of you talked about the things that you've experienced and your speeches, it just resonated with me on so many, the whole thing about, I remember when I was in high school, I'm going to be turning 50 this year. Okay. So I'm just an old dude, but, to some of the people, I'm a young kid, but, I remember in high school, the adults would come up to you and, so what do you want to do with the rest of your life? As if you're supposed to know that. Really? Most of these people in here will tell you that their life took 90-degree turns, every 10 years or so, and look at the nodding heads. See, you don't need to know what you need to do for the rest of your life. Trust in the Lord and trust in the path that he has created for you and walk in that. And do your best. Put your best into it, because it's not like it's not an excuse to be lazy. But I remember people would come to me and they'd say, "Hey, so what are you doing? After school, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And I went to Ecuador. I went to South America and I lived in South America for 5 months. I was 18, right, on my own basically, living in Ecuador. I don't know if you do that these days, but anyway, and it stretched me. I remember coming back to America, and I had like reverse culture shock. It was like, oh my word, look at all this stuff we have. Look at how much of a blessing we can be to others, right? And so you've already had those experiences. And don't worry too much, put in the work in the direction you're heading, but don't worry too much about what's 5, 10, 15 years down the road, because I can tell you 5, 10, 15 years ago, I had no idea I'd be standing here as a state representative. I'm a landscaper, okay? I've been self-employed. I have a landscape company for 24 years, right? And I joke with people, but for those in this room who know us well, I'm artistic. I'm very, very artistic. I'm good at art, okay? And I dig in the dirt. I love biology. But really, Rochelle's the brains of the operation. You guys have known this for a long time, right? Rochelle's a CPA. Rochelle's the accountant. Rochelle and I made a wonderful team that I also could have never predicted. When we got married, I would have had no idea that I would have been self-employed, and that's what would feed our family, pay the mortgage, provide for our family, and provide for us to be able to give above and beyond ourselves. Because, that's what you said. That was so awesome. I'm part of something bigger than myself. That is so huge. So many more Americans need to recognize that. It's not about you, It's not just about us. And so that's what I've brought to this job. And one of the things I've learned already, I've not even been in this job a year. But one of the things I've learned is, and I'll switch over to like Rotary and business and that kind of thing, is the assets that I have with my office here right down the street and our proximity to Harrisburg. Something I did just yesterday. And I want to extend this to all of you and extend you to share it with others in the business community that is we have the opportunity, like we bring the film crew down from Harrisburg and we literally go around to businesses. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this monthly. We're going to do like four or five shoots. So yesterday we did 4 or 5 shoots. And every week, Friday mornings, just now, my email blast goes out. What we're going to start doing is we're going to start including little 2-minute highlight videos, like the business highlight of the week, right? And it's free advertising for you guys, right? Well, technically not. You pay for it, right? But why not take those resources, right? And I can't use them for myself. You'll never see a Tom Jones landscaping video, right? That would be illegal. But I can help the community. And so, yes, but I thought to myself, and I learned very quickly yesterday, it's not just about promoting your business. It's about promoting your story, all right? And yesterday we went around to, we had 5 different shoots, and I was telling our table, we went over to Serve Pro. The owner of Serve Pro escaped Russia when the wall came down, when the Berlin Wall came down. He was 6. He still remembers it. It was traumatic, but he said it in a good way. That uprooting of your life when you're 6 years old. And he told his story about by the time him and his parents got to America, they had $500, right? And now look where he's at. His name's Oleg. If you haven't met Oleg, he's a very intense individual. You've met him. But what an incredible story. And then we went to a couple other places. We stopped over here at B&G. Of course, I had to have Harry in the shot, right? I mean, if anybody's ever been to B&G, you know Harry. Been there since 1960. He's coming up on 64 years. I don't know, did he start when he was 10? I don't know. Anybody know? But anyway, put Harry in the video. These personal connections to our community. And then we went down to E-Town Flooring. And Brian, thank you. I want to say Matthew, but Brian has really taken his business and he's just wrapped it around a ministry called the North Star Ministry, which helps women who have been trafficked in sex trafficking, come out of that and have a new life, right? It's an awesome ministry. And he's really it's not just like a little slogan. Well, it is a slogan on the wall. He took a wall in his showroom and dedicated it to this ministry that he has now wrapped his business around. at E-Town Flooring. Those are the sort of things I didn't expect. But I expect more of that as I get out in the community and like get the chance to meet with business owners, faith-based organizations, charitable organizations. We're doing video shoots all over the place. Cornerstone down at Mount Joy, where I want to hook up with Rainbow's End. All these different things that we have going on. We have gears. We have echoes over here. And we have so many different resources in our community, our business community, our faith-based community, our charitable organizations. I've told people that I found that our office, my office, right, your office, if somebody comes to our door, typically they're desperate. 60% of the time, we're referring them somewhere else. So I've learned quickly that our office is a referral service. So knowing where to send people when government either shouldn't be the answer or isn't the answer. Where do we send people for help? Well, oftentimes it's to local businesses, local charities, local organizations, local churches who have services and ministries in place that can help people out. So that's really what we're about. That's what I'm doing. That's sort of an update on what's happening locally. But you guys just inspired me to say all that. So thank you for what you're doing. You guys, God bless you. And God bless the lives ahead. You guys got a good start. And so thank you, parents, for really instilling some great values in your children. And that's where it's at. It's about parents. It's about our homes. It's about protecting our homes, protecting parents' rights, protecting those decisions. That's stuff that I'm working on in Harrisburg, is standing up for parental choice, parental rights, those sorts of things. So I kind of got off on all that, but I want to be respectful of your time. And I just thought I'd open it up to questions. This was kind of supposed to just impromptu be like sort of a state of the state address. The state's all messed up. But with that, I'll open it up to questions. So if you want any details on that, I can give you the details. But I'd rather stick with the hopeful stuff. These guys right here, I did a town hall. On Wednesday night. Last night we did the Mesa thing, and that's going in the right direction. I'm a big supporter of that. There are certain things. I'm a small government guy. Less government, less taxes, less spending. Get government half of what government does they shouldn't be doing. We should be doing. But there are certain things that government should be doing. And emergency services is one of those things. I'm not an anarchist, okay? And in this instance, because we know historically that the insurance company is untouchable, like they literally are so huge or such a huge monster, we just cannot get them to pay for the services that cost money. We can't get it done. So the next best solution that we have is what we're doing right here. And what the model that's being done here in our community and the surrounding communities coming together to form Mesa is actually being viewed all across the Commonwealth. People are looking at what's happening right here in the 98th Legislative District. We're a model for the state because there are EMS services who have already failed or are failing all across the Commonwealth. So what's happening here, I'm a big fan of, and I'm a huge supporter. So thanks for your work on that, guys, to the folks who are here for that. But yes.
You mentioned the government's a mess. So what are you doing to be part of the solution to fix it?
Right. So continuing to, how do you get that done with the current climate and current atmosphere, right? So we have a house that's divided until this we've had a really tumultuous year numerically, right? So trying to build bridges and trying to work on the legislation that we can do in a nonpartisan way, where we have agreement and can move some things forward. That's really tough in the environment that currently exists in the House. The House is divided currently 101 to 101. There's a special election, so that'll go back to 102 to 101. But then there'll be another resignation. There's an individual who's running for MDJ here in November. And so he'll be elected to MDJ. Then he'll have to resign his seat. We don't even know when that's going to happen, though. It could happen right after the election. It could happen in December, beginning of December, or maybe even in the beginning of January when everything transfers over. But then that's essentially going to probably shut down the government again. They'll close the House again for at least 2 months until another special election is held, and then that seat is filled because they don't want to give up the majority minority. So this past week we came back into session, but the special election that was just held wasn't isn't certified yet, or wasn't certified until maybe yesterday or Monday. So we were at 101, 101. So you know what we did for 2 days? We basically like passed resolutions and voted on some amendments and things like that. I'll get back. I'm not dodging your question. What am I doing to try to bring that back together? Myself and others are working together on legislation that we know will make it through the House, through the Senate. It's a gauntlet. First it has to go into committee, come out of committee, go into the, be voted on. If it even comes out of committee, and then it has to go to the House floor. And if it gets past the House, it has to go to the Senate. All right. If they make any changes, it has to come back to the House to be voted on again. Then it makes it to the governor's desk. Just to put things in perspective, the first year of the last administration, by this time, in the first year of the last administration, the Wolf administration, I think he had signed. The last update I heard, I'd have to hear an actual year-to-date update today. It may have changed, but the last update I heard just a couple weeks ago was that at a year-to-date, the last administration had signed 80 pieces of legislation, 80, into law, okay, which you can argue is good or bad depending on what they are, but regardless, 80 pieces of legislation had to go through what was then a Republican House and a Republican Senate to the governor's desk, and he signed them, yes. He had signed 80. So far, there's been 15. That's all we got done this year, because most stuff just isn't even making it out of the House, and if it does make it out of the House, it dies in the Senate, because they're running some what I would consider to be very crazy stuff, very, very, very concerning stuff, actually. So it's going to the House, or it's going to the Senate, and it's just dying. It's not even being brought up for consideration or a vote. Of those 15 pieces of legislation that have been signed, I think something like 7 or 8 of them were just procedural votes so that the budget can flow, right? So really, as far as legislation, practically, comparatively, very little, like nothing to very little has been done. Some of the stuff that the House is running right now, some of it's extremely concerning. It's concerning for our businesses. It's concerning for our doctors. There was HB 300. HB 300 was run, and if I went to a doctor and I asked for a particular surgery, right, to change my gender, and the doctor, based on his or her moral standing or personal beliefs, refused to do that surgery, they could be held liable, criminally liable, for refusing to do a gender mutilation. I personally don't call it gender affirming care. I call it gender mutilation, and I call it chemical castration of children. And if a doctor refused to do that, this particular proposed legislation would make that doctor a criminal, able to be charged with a crime. And I personally find that reprehensible and immoral. So those are the things we're fighting against, right? Now, not all legislation is that egregious. And so there are some things that are being worked on. For instance, there's legislation that could support what we're doing with MESA. A piece of legislation that I signed. So a lot of times you educate yourself on a particular subject, and sometimes you find, my knee-jerk reaction to that subject might have been wrong. So when I say eminent domain in this room, I don't know, I know this is probably a mixed room, morally, politically, but when I say eminent domain, in our area, most times you think, whoa. The government doesn't get to take properties. We don't like the word eminent domain. But in some communities, when you're talking about a whole city block of vacant properties that are blighted, right, you have a major problem. In the steel region and the coal regions, where there's a depressed area, a lot of these municipalities are dealing with houses that have been abandoned. The people died, never willed it to anybody. No one owns these properties, actually, right? So there was legislation that would allow a local municipality, again, local control, local decision making, to take these properties by eminent domain, and there's a legal process to do that, right? Take the properties by eminent domain, and then it's a win-win-win. The municipality sells the blighted home for a very low price. a contractor buys the property and fixes it up and then sells it, making a profit themselves. I consider that a win. It increases the value of the property, puts it back on the tax rolls, which is good for the municipality. That's a win. And it adds to our our housing shortage, right? And it brings up the entire community. It's literally like a win-win-win-win. And so I voted for that. Whereas some of my colleagues on the right looked at it as like, is this a government? Like they looked at it suspiciously. They looked at it, is this a government land grab? And having worked with the VPR, the Vacant Property Reinvestment Board, and with the Lancaster County Planning Commission, I knew that it wasn't. I knew that it wasn't a government land grab. It was actually a way to bring up the community with all those win-wins. And so I voted for that. So that's the kind of stuff, when that kind of legislation comes through, you communicate and champion that sort of thing. So that's a long answer to a very complex question.
Well, I guess your example about the mutilation or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the people that put that forward have an issue. And your attitude is to block the issue rather than to figure out how can I help them get what they want. Because I think there's value, some value to what they're asking for as well. And it's always trying to block the others rather than trying to work with the others. And that's what I see all the time.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you gave the example of the Wolf administration where it sounded like Republicans put together stuff that the Democratic governor would sign. They recognized, so they were looking for ways to work together. But I hear you're doing, I'm going to block what I don't like, which to me that's what you got, no problem.
Right. So blocking the things that I identified, I will always block those things. Giving individuals who need help, giving individuals who need, so for instance, people who are, and I've said this in a mixed room before, and I'll say it here. People who are suffering from dysphoria, right, need help. But I don't need to surrender my reality to participate in your delusion. I will not surrender my reality of there are men and there are women. I will not surrender my reality to participate in a delusion. And so but I do believe that you need to be treated with respect. You need to be treated with care, and you need to be treated with love. As a fellow human being, you need to be treated with those things. But I don't need to agree with you to love you. That's the mistake in our culture. We're hit with this bludgeon of you have to agree with me to love me. You have to agree with me to respect you, to respect me, And that's not the truth. The truth is I can lovingly disagree with you. Rochelle does it to me all the time, right? It would be very boring if she was just like, yes, sir. It would be very ugly too, right? So I don't participate in that. So will I block children being assigned or prescribed these things outside of the knowledge of their parents? Yes, I will fight on that. I think it's egregious that our 14-year-old children have to sign for their parents to see their medical records. That's egregious. That's wrong. And that happened here in Pennsylvania. So those are the things I will fight against. But on the flip side of that, and to your point, we need to continue to treat people with love, respect, care, and I can respectfully disagree. So, yeah. Other questions? And what is, please just, there's a shepherd's hook, right? That'll grab me and just pull me off. So I just want to, yeah, sorry. Any other questions? Sorry if I went long. So, okay, perfect.
Anybody? All right.
Good. Hey, thank
thanks
you,
so
sir.
much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.